Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
Let me put it this way as I'm thinking about it. Okay, going back again to what we were talking about earlier, and this is like maybe we could have an interesting think about this. Does he have any business being mayor from a pragmatic, logical, effective standpoint?
Yes, I would say so.
He does.
Absolutely.
So given that you just said he's going to be remembered as someone who talked a big game but didn't deliver, how is that a solution? Because to me, I look at it as he's going to be in the office for what, 4 years? This is 4 useless years that we can't get back that we need in a city that's very important to the country. Like the economic success and culturally, the influence. Like I remember when Giuliani got in there, and Giuliani got in and became the mayor of New York City. That was the last massive blow up of New York City. That was the last time New York City was New York City. I mean, think about it. You had Jay-Z in New York. Like that's everything. Like New York was New York. So culturally and financially and beacon wise, that New York served as the light of America, the shining star, this tip of the spear, the cultural influence of America. Capitalism lives here, success. And Giuliani came in and gave sweeping incentives for developers to come in and build. He killed the crime, made the safe streets, cut the taxes. He did the basics, and he came in there and he was a good executive, and he did what he needed to do to get the job done. And as a result, New York prospered significantly. Mandami has an opportunity to come in and do that, but given he doesn't have any experience, he's young. And I'm not saying experience in the same world where you get like Cuomo comes up and says, "Yeah, I have experience." I'm not talking political experience as a politician, right? Or a when a Nancy Pelosi would come up and say, I have experience being in politics for 30 years, or even I would hear Democratic voters or even Republican voters, any voters that are, sold out. They go to the conventions. Yeah, but they don't have the experience. No, I don't care about their political experience. I care about what have you done? Like, for example, if Jamie Dimon said, "I'm running for mayor of New York City," please elect Jamie Dimon. That's what I'm talking about, Len. So, but we know Jamie Dimon's not a politician. He's not going to say the right things because what Jamie Dimon is going to say is going to be very unpopular for a lot of people, right? Because a lot of people are going to can't stomach what it takes to make JP Morgan Chase Bank, right? And that's where you cross that divergent in politics and reality, right? Like his business is about what? Matching reality with expectations. So that's where that divergence and that nuance comes in politics because you got a gray area stuff because you go, right? So that's what I mean. So Mandami is going to waste 4 years that we don't have.
Okay.
So given that, should there be something where you and I know this has been floated around, but this open elections are open elections. I mean, what is the only requirement you have is the presidential one? You got to be a minimum
35 and born in America.
I don't understand the 35 thing. Like, what happens? Do you reach like this point of ultra realistic ascension at 35 or something? Or because I know at 35, I have no damn business being the president of the United States.
No possible way, bro.
Len at 35, would you? I could be right. So and going back, maybe Kennedy didn't even have any business being president of the United States at his age. I mean. But Kennedy was very popular because when you see those things at Kennedy on TV, he was in the people and his hands out and waving and kisses and hugs. And that's what got him. And he was Camelot, the young, new, innovative, inspiring space age. That's what, we were coming out of the cold Dwight D. Eisenhower, strict, boom, 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 which is what got America through World War I and World War II. But we needed that shift. So Mandami could represent that, but he's so unqualified to do anything. And now he's gotten himself in this situation, like you said, I'm going to lower taxes. Hochul ain't going to do that. So even if Hochul does push back, her lieutenant governor is going to come in and force a primary. She's not going to win it. And he could end up in even a more dangerous situation where he has Stefanik, who could potentially be the governor of New York.
So yeah, that's true.
That's what I mean.
Okay, so I don't. Okay, I. This is my optimism speaking. So before I speak optimistically, I want to talk a little bit about Giuliani because he didn't. He wasn't the great statesman that people proclaim him to be. The one claim to fame that he has is that he lowered the crime rate significantly. And I think he lowered it by like 57%. Now, but
That's
if you
huge,
haven't,
Len.
yes,
Huge.
but at what cost though? Because there was a guy, Amadou Diallo, that was sodomized with a stick by the law enforcement, and then like a week or two later, then another guy, a Haitian person, was killed by the police. It was like brutality, the whole stop and frisk thing. Absolutely not. Like if you go to China. China's one of the safest places in the world in terms of crime rates, but at what cost? If you have a totalitarian regime that's ruled by people that walk, with large machine guns and things like that. I'm not saying that's what happens in China, but if that's what it takes to create safety, lowering crime at what cost? Like, for example, what's the guy's name in Costa Rica? Oh my goodness. The president in not Costa Rica. I'm talking about
Venezuela?
not Venezuela. El Salvador. El Salvador is it? El Salvador president. Yeah, El Salvador's president. Bukele.
Yes.
Very good looking, sharp, knows his stuff. People love him, but he has one of the worst prisons in the world, and it'll beat you down. Now, people would argue that that's what's needed because of the rampant crime and all that stuff. All I'm saying is that there are ways to lower crime, and you can do it in a humane way and you can do it in an inhumane way. Let's take that point. Let's push it aside. Let's talk about Mandami. Now, the thing that I'm optimistic about, and I'm hoping, and I don't know if what I'm saying will be true, but I'm hoping that what happens is that he gets into office in January and he uses his intelligence to realize, okay, what I thought and what I said were pie in the skies ideas. I'm in office now. I'm starting to realize that here are some of the structural realities of my position. Because I'm intelligent and because I'm pragmatic, I'm going to intelligently pivot because what I proposed isn't going to happen. And because I'm intelligent and I can speak well and I can articulate my points clearly, I'm going to explain to my constituency why I'm pivoting into this other direction. Because I think anybody who really has a brain can see, and who has some wisdom can see that what he's trying to do is not going to happen. So with Mandani, what I remember, what I'm thinking is that he's going to get into office and he's going to realize that his thoughts and his goals weren't realistic because he didn't know what he didn't know. And so once he goes in and reads the political tea leaves and understands that the coalitions that he needs to develop and the political framework that he needs to develop in order to get things done needs to change, I'm hoping that he'll have the willingness to pivot his perspective and be able to articulate that point to the people in New York City to say, look, New York is a big state. We've got a lot of people that are outside of these 5 boroughs who look at the world differently. And so I have to form strong, strategic partnerships with people across the aisle that I may not even agree with. And some of those across the aisle people are even on the Democratic side. And so in order to be able to get things done, I'm hoping he'll realize early in the game the need to pivot, as opposed to realizing that, okay, democratic socialism and speaking in a bullhorn is going to go on deaf ears. Once he gets into office and realizes that his ideas don't get done, because if he can't get anything done, then he's no good for anybody. So I'm optimistic that he'll use his intelligence to figure things out.
I think that he's going to endure a very rough 4 years, and unfortunately, it's going to be very ineffective because it's going to take him so long to try to figure out how that mess actually works. And by the time he actually even figures out, he might even be disheartened or I mean, he might have an Elon Musk moment. I don't think he will. I want to be optimistic, but I want to say throw him in the same camp as an AOC. He just wants to get in there, get some power, get some money, get some political ties, enrich himself a little bit more. I just think he's in the same camp as all of them. I want to think he's not, Len, because I want to, because I am an optimist, but time will tell. Time will tell, but my percentage is that he's going to be on that side of he's going to be try to be a government bureaucrat. I mean, because he doesn't, and I say that also because he hasn't done anything since, or I mean, he hasn't done anything up until this point. He hasn't done a startup, hasn't ran a business. He hasn't done anything like that. He hasn't invested in loss. You know what I mean? Like, that's a big deal when you're running something, because you understand what it means when you have skin in the game in something, right? Because to me, I feel like he still has a monopoly effect where and not a monopoly effect in the sense where he owns everything, a monopoly effect in the sense where he doesn't care if he loses everything because he landed on Boardwalk and you have 2 hotels on it and he's going to lose everything. He doesn't care that it's $7,000 to rent out your Boardwalk property and that's going to wipe him out. He doesn't care because it's not his money, because he's never really, I don't think, invested any skin in the game in anything. He's never come off a battlefield of business or life and gone, damn, dude, I walked away and gave everything, but I lost everything. And now I got to start all over again because he's not playing with his money. So I think that there's that effect there too. Now, I could be completely wrong. He might have had some personal things he's went through, but so far as we can tell, he doesn't have any worldly experience that would say that he's even gotten a job and been fired. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I would say from the outside, people would say that about Kennedy, because he was young when he was elected to president, and people didn't think that he'd be effective, but he came in and he was wildly effective, which is one of the reasons why I believe he was killed. And just like you said, time will tell, because I wonder how many people before they got into office really came in with the right intentions, and then something happened along the way that tainted them. Because once so many people come into office and realize it's a rigged game to a certain degree, and there has to be a certain level of martyrdom for one to just stay true to who they are in the most holistic of ways, because I don't see it as often anymore. And so when you look at all of these lobbying companies, all these lobbyists, and when you look at these politicians that are in bed with the lobbyists, it's a very nasty, dirty game. And I just wonder, to what degree will he come in and be impacted by that? Because, at the end of the day, he's not a senator. He's not, he's a mayor of a city. So I'm hoping,
a big city,
no doubt, and an influential city. And that means something. And so I think that he's uniquely positioned to the effect that he may not have those really negative outside influences trying to change his perspective. And maybe with his intelligence and his new perspective, he can really make some change and do something. And who knows what will happen. I don't think he's going to be wildly effective unless he gets in there, he realizes that he needs to pivot, and he does it quickly. So like you said, time will tell.
I think that speaking of rigged games, the government's back open. Everyone's happy about that, right? And I think this goes hand in hand with that, where, he's going to come in and he's going to see it's enough, and he's going to see how things are really ran, the dirty secrets of how big things are ran. I mean, all of them are, all the big things have dirty secrets, right? I mean, it's just impossible. And the government's one of them. It's the biggest corporation in the world. I mean, it's the biggest corporation in the world. Say what you want to say.
Yeah.
But it just seems to me that, and this goes hand in hand, a lot of Democrats in the Democratic Party, or I shouldn't say the Democrats, I should say the establishment Democrats. I want to say they know it, that the days are numbered. I don't think it's at this point anymore where they could say, "Oh my God, they're taking over," or they're infiltrating. I don't think so anymore, because first it was AOC, and now AOC's in there. All the squad members are in there. Mandami's in there now. I think that what you're witnessing is you're seeing the change of the Democratic Party, just like you saw the change of the Republican Party. The old school Republican Party is now dead. Officially, it's dead. It is now MAGA, alt-right, informed men, young men. Like, it has changed now. Nick Fuentes are in there now. And like, who would have thought in our today's world that a Nick Fuentes would be how could someone like that be influential?
Wouldn't have happened in the 90s. Definitely
it wouldn't have
not.
happened. It would have never happened. But he is now. So you're seeing it on both sides. But I think the Democrats made a very big strategic error with what they did with the shutdown. I want to say
I couldn't agree with you more.
They were using that as a bellwether, I think, and they think they got that false hope of like, oh my God, we won these Virginia, Jersey things. Those are false hopes, because they handed the Republicans, or the opposing. I don't want to say the Republicans. They hand the opposing side an opportunity to go, ooh, leaks. Now we can fix them. So it gives them a better opportunity to now have to fight an even stronger enemy, because they exposed their game already. And they're still fractured. I'd say that one thing that the Republican caucus or Republican Party has in their favor, and I think that they're doing a good job of this right now, is, and you're seeing it now even with today with the Epstein stuff. Now Trump changes his tune and release, go ahead, because Massey put the pressure on him. But what you're seeing is, and you see the Marjorie Taylor Greene split, I think what you're seeing is that the Republicans are going to be able to distance themselves by default faster away from Trump with the new movement than any other, and then the opposing side, Democratic side, because I think the Democratic side doesn't really understand its identity yet. And they don't really know where they're going, because realistically, what does the Democratic Party stand for at this point? We really don't know. We really, and that I think is their lack of message. And if you think for a second that they're going to put Governor Newsom in there as their saving hope, the only thing the guy's got going for him is, again, he's charismatic and he looks good. And those are great qualities to get elected as a politician. But as a manager, as an executive, he's terrible. I mean, he lost $20 billion for homeless over the last 5 years, and no one's even talking about that. And I don't want to get into that discussion, because we could go all on that. But the government's finally open. There's a strategic error. Len, where are you at with that as far as the wound or any of that for that matter?
Yeah, I don't know if the Democrats will be able to recover from it. And let me explain what I mean. I believe, like we talked about last week, is people are over Trump. I believe that. I believe that as a population, the chinks in the armor are starting to get exposed, and you have a fracture between Trump and the MAGA base. You have very outspoken people who were very pro-Trump before, like your Megyn Kellys and your Tucker Carlsons and, your Candace Owens of the world, and even your Joe Rogans of the world, who are very, very pro-Trump. And many of them, to varying degrees, are starting to distance themselves from him. And so that right there created an opportunity for the Democrats to say, okay, there's a chink in the armor. There's a fracture on the other side. Let's position ourselves right now and make the right moves to be able to, over the next 3 years, get somebody in office. Now, I'm not speaking from my perspective. I'm just speaking strategy, because like I said, over and over, I don't have a dog in any of the fight. I just want the country to be strong, and I don't want it to be as divided as it is. But from a strategic standpoint, the Democratic Party was so dumb, because they allowed the government to be shut down for 41 days, which is the largest amount of time in history, the longest amount of time in history. And for what? You have millions of people that were on SNAP that had their benefits cut. And you have all of these promises that they were suggesting they were running on, which was to extend the deadline of the Affordable Care Act, and make sure that the subsidies and the payments and all of those would be, continued on. And none of those things happened. And so you have 8 Democratic representatives that go and vote against their party. And they could have did that 41 days ago because there were no promises. There were no concessions. Now, we do know that there's another opportunity starting in January for all of the votes and all of that stuff to go in their direction. But the Republicans never made any promises whatsoever. And so because of that, they lost all of the leverage they had before for standing out. And don't stand on principle and then go back and not stand on principle. But here was the last strategic error. And then I'll turn it back over to you. What I believe is they didn't anticipate the amount of blowback they would get when the SNAP benefits went out. And I think they started to look at what it meant for them politically. And those 8 people, some of them are not running again. So they have less political capital to lose. And so they decided to capitulate and jump on the other side. And I think that was a dumb move because they were very well positioned moving forward, especially for the midterm elections.
I totally agree with you on that. I have another interesting follow-up question to you, and I think they're going to do it. Will they make another strategic error in that they're going to and they're still doing it? And this is why I say they're going to do it. And I think they do it because obviously a lot of people do it because they want to make money. There's no doubt about it. If you mention Trump in any of your headlines, you're going to get likes, clicks, tags, right? We know that. But I think it's a foolish error for them to be spending any time whatsoever on Trump right now. Who cares? He's gone in 3 years. Like, they should be focusing on all of the down ballots, the people that could come after him, his cabinet, those. And they're not. They're still constantly attacking Trump. And look what we got on Trump. Like, when those emails got released and they highlighted those 3 emails, and that's all they have. Out of all these 20,000 sensational emails that got released, the only one...
You're talking about connected to the Epstein files, right? Yeah, those emails?
The only ones they put about on Trump is the fact that, Trump may have known more or did know more about what was going on. Of course, that's why he cut ties with him, right? Which is just lunacy because I'm going, that's it? That's it? And then I go, why didn't Trump just release this crap? Why did he make it? He made it such a big issue for himself. But that's besides the point. The point being is, dude, who cares? Stop focusing on him, because if you keep focusing on him, there's nothing you could do about it. In a sense, he's a lame duck candidate now. What everyone ought to be focusing on the other side is the succession, right? The principles in the succession. That's what, and the general theme of, look, same old under this guy, you're going to get it with these guys or whatever. So no one's attacking those guys. And I think that's the problem that they're going to make. They're going to keep making it about Trump, and that's going to be their downfall again, why they're not going to be in the White House in another 4 years. I think anyways.
Well, okay. So there's 2 different points that I want to attack. The first point is the real issue at hand, specifically with the Epstein files. I think that is the one bipartisan issue that Democrats and Republicans can come together on. And even the Democrats could sit back and allow the Republicans to push that agenda forward, because Marjorie Taylor Greene has been on CNN, Fox, anywhere she can get a platform. She's been everywhere trying to promote this, because at the end of the day, any decent human being has an issue with the pedophile.
Pedophilia, yes.
Any decent human being. And so from that standpoint, the Democrats shouldn't spend too much energy and effort, because there's already building momentum, because, independent media stations and podcasts are all over this, especially the ones that talk of politics. People want to know what the heck's going on. Because as I mentioned before in our long conversation that we had offline, it's the principle of the issue, which is right now, the swamp is running amok with gook and dysfunction and bad behavior and all of the negative elements that politics brings right now. It exists there. And so this is a real opportunistic time by releasing those files to begin to drain that swamp. So the Democrats, from a strategic standpoint, should allow the MAGA base to push that agenda forward, while, to your point, they start focusing on one flip side of the coin, which is who's going to be their candidate, and they all rally behind that person. And two, who do you begin to start attacking from the standpoint of their policies and their principles? Don't make it personal. Don't make it about who they are as a family person or whatever, because that's what they try to do to Trump. And I agree with you. They spend too much time trying to bash him. He's not running for office anymore. So it's a very short-sighted but effective strategy. It is effective to do anti-Trump. That's why they do it. But it's a short-term effective strategy. It's not long-term effective. And so I think that the unfortunate reality is the Democrats don't have a platform. They don't have a message. They don't have an identity. They don't stand for anything because they can't get unified on any message. And until that happens, the Republicans are going to continue to run and mop them all over the floor. And quite frankly, I don't mind having a Republican in office. I just want a Republican in office that upholds the views of the American people and really wants to push the agenda that American people hold as important to them. And again, I don't have to agree with them in every position, but as long as they're a person of the people and they understand the importance of getting the House of Representatives back intact, the Senate back intact, and the checks and balances between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. I want somebody who's more of a unifier, who begins to put all of those structures back in place, regardless of their office.
So every single day that the DNC goes into wherever they go, right, to talk about DNC stuff, I don't know how they do it, right? They need to play Bonnie Taylor. This is what they need to play all the time. They need a hero, baby.
I need a hero.
Holding out, baby. Bonnie Tyler.
That's right.
They need to play that every day because that's the problem. They don't have one.
No,
they don't. They do not have one. So
I agree.
They're stuck in that one. So
I agree.
All the games we played, which was over these subsidies, we're not turning on SNAP. Trump won. They're pissed about it. He didn't release the snaps, regardless of whatever happened. And we closed the country for a political stalwart and a statement in a political battle. And here's the thing that should piss everybody off. It only hurts the working class people the most. It only hurts the people on SNAP.
And the poor.
It only hurts the people that didn't get paid. It only hurts those people that are getting crushed already by the cost of everything. It's just, I mean, it's not to say that not everybody is. Everyone's getting crushed. They're just getting crushed and they feel it and it affects their livelihood every day.
And it's all over political gamesmanship. I don't like that when you're playing with people's lives.
But with that being said, Len, any closing final thoughts for you?
No, I would just say for those of you that are out there watching this, just continue to stay informed, continue to look at both sides of the issue. Don't get caught up in echo chambers. Be a thinker for yourself. Don't let somebody else think for you. Don't even let us think for you, because we're just talking heads on the media as well, right? But we just try to be more objective and talk about both sides. But at the end of the day, you got to go figure it out for yourself, because, Chris just I know this is an aside. We're supposed to be closing out, but you'll hear like people say, hey, what do you think about Trump doing XYZ 1, 2, 3? And they're like, oh, I love that he did that. And then they're like, well, that was actually Obama. And then they'll say, and then on the other side, they'll say, what do you think about, what Biden did with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? And they're like, that's the craziest thing. And they're like, well, that was actually Trump. And they're like, oh, well then, so it's like, don't be such an ideologue where you just fall for just one particular person just because you like them. Think for yourself and care about the issues and really understand that at the end of the day, as human beings, as critical thinking human beings, our number one search as it relates to these types of topics is to search for truth. And so that's really what we try to do here. So with that being said, Chris, I'll turn it back over to you to close us out, man.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. Be informed, because then you can have a much more intellectual conversation. And when you're right and you have the facts, you can burn people a lot better. And that's always good. Everyone loves a good relative burning. Thanksgiving's coming up. Yeah. Don't stay quiet. Create some chaos and some drama at the table. Everyone wants to talk about it. Look, you busted your butts to get to that table, right? And you busted your butts to put the food on that table. You might as well have a great civil, logical, independently intellectual conversation about it and say, that's right, baby. I got you. This one's paired with the facts, right? Be clean and eloquent about it. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, you can all enjoy some apple pie or some pumpkin pie together. And then think about how you're going to come together as a family and just crush it in 2026. So, but anyways,
yep, absolutely.
Always good, sir. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.